Welcome to reading class, second grade. So we had the story, The Golden Rule Corn, yesterday. Um, let's do a little bit of review here on the board first before we go into anything else. So we have some words here. We have dozen, which means 12. Beneath means below or under something. Holy means set apart to God. Invitation means a request to come to something. Merchants means people who buy and sell things. Mystery, something that cannot be explained. Opportunity, a chance to do something. Ox cart, a two-wheeled wagon pulled by an ox. Palace, the large home of a ruler. Scolding, talking in anger. And also we have the Bible verse that you had, and today you can memorize it and you can say it to your mom or older sister or something. And so here is your Bible verse. Let's say it together. And as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise. Luke 6:31. Okay, so yeah, memorize that verse and you can say it to someone then. And so let's talk about this golden rule story a little bit here. Now, these people were selling produce from their house. And what those people actually do is that they had corn, they had like extra corn to sell. They wanted to sell corn. So then they put a sign out by the road, and then anyone who wanted corn could stop in and buy some. That's kind of how the story goes there. And so, yeah, let's think about the question for the story. It says, in the beginning of your story, it says, what is your answer to the question on page 242? Well, on page 242, you'll find the question right here. It says, do you think Jesus knew the golden rule would work that way too? So do you think Jesus knew the golden rule would work that way? I think he did. I think he knew that that the golden rule, if we follow the golden rule, if we do to others like we would want for them to do to us, that is a good rule to live by because it really does work. And so anyway, let's talk about some of these questions for discussion now. What was the problem in this story? So the problem was Benny didn't understand why Mother counted out 13 ears of corn when people asked for a dozen. So whenever anyone came for a dozen of corn, Benny's mom would give them 13 ears instead of 12 ears. There's 12 ears in a dozen, right? Well, so Mom gave him 13 ears and he couldn't quite understand that. How was the problem solved? Well, Benny saw that following the golden rule made people feel happy. When Benny ran to the house, Mother wiped her hands on her apron. What do you think she had been doing? Well, maybe she had been washing dishes. We don't really know what Mother was doing. We just kind of have to guess. But she was probably working in the kitchen doing something, maybe washing dishes or maybe making supper or something. What did Mother say an extra ear of corn would make up for? It was any corn that might not be good. So what did Benny do when Mother asked him to count out a dozen ears for the lady? He counted out 13 ears, just as Mother wanted him to do. How did that make the lady feel? She was happy to be treated so kindly. What did the other lady say she would tell her friends? This was the place to come for corn. So in that way, they probably got more customers because they treated people nicely. And in the same way, we need to treat everyone kindly that we come in contact with. We need to try to practice the golden rule in everything we do. Let's now look in your lesson for today. So for today, you have part A is underline the answer to each question. Well, first of all, it says time for reading class. So if you have not read your story out loud to someone, you should do it now for sure. And try to remember to use really good expression and how read how you think those people must have been talking, you know, like if they were, let's see, how were the people in this story? So they were happy people some of the time, and surprised. See, when Benny, sometimes he was surprised. He was like, why mother, he paid for only a dozen. And then yeah, so try to read it exactly how you think those people must have sounded. It makes it sound really interesting. And anyway, so let's look at the rest of your lesson. Then you can start with part A. Once you read the story out loud to someone, then you can start with part A. And it says to underline the answer to each question. And so carefully read your question and decide which would be the best answer for that. Okay, part B, it says, underline the main idea of Golden Rule corn. So, the first one says, giving extra corn is the best way to make new friends. Shall we just give people nice things so that we have, you know, we think, oh, this is the best way to make a friend, so I'm just going to give them a lot of nice stuff. Well, that's still not quite the right idea of the Golden Rule. Let's look at the next line then. It says, Benny found out that following the Golden Rule made everyone happy. Well, I think that would be the best option, because really when we practice the Golden Rule, we want to make everyone happy around us and not just think about ourselves. So, okay, then part C, memorize the Bible verse and say it to your teacher. So you can, since I'm not there with you, you can say it to your mom or somebody else that's teaching you. And then let's go to the next part underneath that. It says, read each story below. So we're going to do this part here kind of together. I'm going to read, you can follow along here. I'm on page 24. So follow along as I read. I'm right underneath the Bible verse, and I am there where it says read each story below on page 24. So the first example says, I am the biggest, so I get to choose first, said Sam, holding the bag of candy above his sister's heads. And that sounds like kind of a nasty thing to do, or kind of like a selfish thing maybe. Well, what could Sam have done instead of what he said or what he did? So let's think about the Golden Rule, and let's think of some ways that Sam could have done better here. So maybe Sam should have left his sisters choose first. He could have done that. That would have been a real gentleman if he would have done that. And or let's say maybe he could let them choose first, and he could let them have first choice in it. And now let's go to the next story. It says, follow me. I'll take you to your classroom, said Fred. Well, that sounds like kind of a nice thing to do. I would say that would be practicing the Golden Rule. Let's look at the next example there. It says, when the children lined up after recess, June said, Anne, did you know your scarf is on the playground? I left it there. Well, I think maybe that wasn't... Let's think about how she could have done different there. Their example that they have in the book here is June should have picked up Anne's scarf. And that would have been a kind thing to do, rather than she could just pick it up for her and take it to her. June could pick up Anne's scarf and just take it to her nicely, and instead of just saying that she left it out there, she could take it in for her. That would be practicing the Golden Rule. That would be being kind to her friend. Okay, and then you can... so you can write down the name of each child who did not obey the Golden Rule in the first blank, and then write what each one should have done in the line after that. And so you can, think about that and think of a good answer to write down for that. And then if you turn your page, you have page 25 yet to do. You may follow directions on there. Read the directions really carefully, and you can follow them as they say. Okay, so I'll let you do your lesson now. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to call me. And yeah, I hope you all have a good weekend.